All right, let's dive into one of the greatest technological mysteries of all time. We're talking about an object so advanced, so completely out of place in history, that for decades, people simply refused to believe it was real. This is the story of a machine that, by all rights, just shouldn't exist. So picture this. It's 1901, and divers are exploring a shipwreck off a Greek island called Antikythera. They pull this thing to the surface. And at first, it just looks like a corroded lump of bronze. Next to all the incredible statues and treasures they found, it was basically just a rock. But inside that rock was a secret that would rewrite history. It had a system of gears and dials so incredibly complex, it completely turned our understanding of the ancient world on its head. I mean, the level of engineering inside this thing wouldn't be seen again on Earth for another 1,500 years. And that leaves you with this just mind-bending question. What if the ancient Greeks, right on the cusp of their civilization's decline, had actually invented a mechanical computer? And what if that incredible knowledge was then just lost, swallowed by the sea for 2,000 years? Well, that's the story we're digging into today. The story of how we even found this thing is almost as wild as the object itself. It's a tale of two storms, separated by 2 millennia, that brought a lost world of technology back to the surface. So get this, the story kicks off with an unbelievable coincidence. Back in the 1st century BC, a storm sinks this Roman ship loaded with Greek treasures. Fast forward 2,000 years to 1900. Another storm forces a crew of sponge divers to take shelter in that exact same spot. A diver goes down to have a look, and he comes up screaming in terror, talking about a heap of dead naked people. What he actually saw was a treasure trove of ancient bronze statues, and this discovery launched the world's first major underwater archaeological dig. And as the team brought up all this priceless art, they also recovered that lump of bronze, but nobody really paid any attention to it. I mean, compared to these magnificent statues, it was just an ugly rock. So they packed it off to a museum in Athens, stuck it in storage, and basically forgot about it. But about a year later, an archaeologist at the museum noticed something impossible. The rock had cracked open, and inside were gears. Tiny, intricate gear wheels. This wasn't a rock at all. It was a machine. A machine that was completely, shockingly out of place. So what was this impossible device? I mean, what did it actually do? This is where the story shifts from a lucky find to a genuine revelation about the sheer genius of the ancient world. The craftsmanship was just staggering. We're not talking about clunky gears from a watermill. These were delicate, interlocking wheels with tiny, triangular teeth barely a millimeter long. It looked like the guts of a high-end Swiss watch, not something from a 2,000-year-old shipwreck. And what it could do was even more mind-blowing. This thing was basically a portable universe. It predicted eclipses down to the hour. It tracked the sun, the moon, and the 5 planets they knew about. It even accounted for the weird variations in the moon's orbit. And, as if that wasn't enough, it had a dial for the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games. It was an astronomical calculator and a social calendar, all in one. And this really shows you the beauty of the design. On the inside, you've got this incredibly complex mechanical brain doing all these crazy calculations. But on the outside, you have this elegant, easy-to-read display showing you the state of the cosmos. And the best part? The whole thing was powered by just turning a single knob on the side. For the better part of a century, the mechanism held on to its secrets. It was so corroded, so fragile, that scientists just couldn't figure out exactly how it worked. That is, until modern technology finally gave us a way to peek inside this 2,000-year-old mystery without actually destroying it. In 2005, a team brought in this custom-built, 8-ton X-ray machine. Think of it like a super-powered CT scanner. It finally allowed them to create a full 3D model of the inner workings, revealing every single tooth on every hidden gear. For the first time, researchers could basically take the machine apart virtually, piece by piece. And what they found inside was just jaw-dropping. It confirmed this wild theory. The mechanism used something called epicyclic gearing. Okay, so this is an incredibly clever system where you have smaller gears that are mounted on and orbit around larger gears. It was the only way they could have possibly simulated the complex looping motions of the planets as we see them from Earth. To get a picture of it, one researcher came up with a perfect analogy. He said it was like the cups on a Mad Hatter teacup ride. This brilliant design is how the ancient maker modeled the moon's tricky orbit, how it seems to speed up and slow down. It is pure, unadulterated genius. I really want this number to sink in. 1,500 years. After this device was lost at sea, this level of sophisticated gearing just vanished. It completely disappeared from the historical record for a millennium and a half, until something even remotely as complex started showing up in the massive astronomical clocks of medieval cathedrals. Which, of course, brings us to the biggest mystery of all. Who on earth could have built this thing? Who was this ancient super genius, capable of creating something so far beyond their own time? It's a true historical whodunit. Now, the clues we have are fascinating, but they're also a bit contradictory. The names of the months inscribed on it point to Corinth, but the dial for the athletic games mentions events held in Rhodes. So that puts the workshop in a few different places, and it points the finger at some of the era's greatest minds, like the astronomer Hipparchus. But the biggest suspect, the most famous name in the frame, comes from the Roman writer Cicero. He wrote about a bronze machine built by the one and only Archimedes of Syracuse generations before this one was made, that could perfectly model the cosmos. It sounds exactly like the Antikythera Mechanism. So was this device part of a tradition started by the greatest genius of the ancient world? And when you look at a complete reconstruction based on all the evidence, you just see a masterpiece. It's not just a clever machine, it's the pinnacle of Greek astronomical theory and engineering skill, all combined into one miraculous device. Which leaves us with this final, haunting question. Was the creator someone we all know, a famous name like Archimedes? Or was it some other incredible genius whose name and whose unbelievable knowledge was completely erased by time, only to be found again by sheer chance 2,000 years later? We may never really know.